You can go to Marshfield and see Steve.
That's true. I could.
Oh, that's funny.
And here we are live. Yay! And here we are live in the spoiler room this past weekend. That big, huge event film, or as we've been calling it, that small little micro indie film that's been getting huge buzz on the internet. Mr. Avengers: The Age of Ultron appeared this past weekend. Big, huge box office, and I've got a huge spoiler crew assembled tonight to talk about what?
Assembled.
Yes, assembled. What? What's so funny? What?
Avengers, assemble! Come on!
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. Awesome. I'm glad you called Paul. And that voice you heard, sure, we have Paul back in the spoiler room. How are you today, Paul?
I'm doing great.
Good to hear. And Glenn is back as well in the spoiler room. Hello, Glenn. How are you, the BFD himself?
I'm good.
He's good. All right. Diva, the diva of the spoiler room is here. Dawn, how are you?
Okay.
Mr. Cole Meredith joins us once again. How are you tonight, sir?
Awesome. Ready to rock?
Fantastic. And we have Mr. Scott Davis himself has graced us with his presence this evening. Hello, sir.
Hey.
And what spoiler room Avengers
lively bunch we are.
Age of Ultron discussion wouldn't be complete without Mr. Tiger Power himself, Tony Estrada, back with us tonight. Hello, Tony. That's great.
What's up, you guys? I'm doing great.
Well, Tony, I guess Estrada is our Iron Man. Everyone else can pick their favorite Avenger to be. But tonight,
America, fuck yeah.
He is
language.
for the people just listening to this. Tony has already donned an Iron Man helmet and just held up a Captain America helmet. So, in his where he is right now, he could actually have his own Civil War.
He could have his own Civil War. But no, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now we're talking about Age of Ultron. That wonderful story where we have Tony Stark and Bruce Banner trying to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program. Things go awry, and it's up to the Avengers to stop the villainous Ultron from enacting his terrible plans. Folks, that synopsis right there, I think, is more straightforward than this entire movie. Mr. Joss Whedon himself. Let's get some initial opinions from everyone. We've heard the hype. We saw so many clips. Glenn!
I'm confused. I thought this movie was about Newland Archer and how he was a New York City socialite in 19th century New York. Oh, wait, no, that's Age of Innocence. I'm sorry.
Wow, getting all literary on us.
I'm like, okay, Age of Ultron.
That was Age of Innocence.
This was a movie that I liked. I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as the original Avengers.
Right.
My big thing is I think they're, and I mean this was an unavoidable thing, but I think you reach a point where you have too many freaking characters, and it's not that I can't keep track of them because I already know who all these people are from reading the comics, but when you have the fight scenes, it's like, let's have two Ace in a second with Captain America, now over to Thor, now back over to Captain America. Okay, now we need to get Black Widow in there, and now we have to have some shots of Ultron talking. Now we need Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Oh, back over to Thor, now we need the Hulk. Oh yeah, we forgot about Hawkeye. He's in this too. It's just this constant between so many different people that I think the fights lose a little something because they're trying to, they have to showcase everyone.
Well, yeah.
You got to show off how cool everybody is.
Whoever was on the marquee, correct? Dawn, what about you? You had an interesting experience since you saw it with a very devout Avengers fan. So you kind of saw it twice. What about you? Your impression of Avengers?
Saw it twice. The thing with me is I need to remember the Marvel Cinematic Universe is separate from the Marvel comic books universes. And I enjoyed it, but I do agree with Biff. There was a little bit too much going on. And it was, as much as I liked it, it did not have the impact that the first one had.
Right. Okay, cool. Cole, what about you, sir? Your initial impressions from seeing Age of Ultron?
Yeah, I loved this movie. I mean, I thought it left the original in its dust. I mean, right off the bat, you're able to hit the ground running, and it never stops running. I mean, I remember hating the original, the opening to the original, and I still don't like it that much. I watch it again. I mean, you get a bunch of body possession and a car chase in the dark, and even after that, it takes a while to set up. And I think the problems Glenn had with this one, I had with the first. I actually thought this one was a little bit more focused, and maybe that's just because the emotions were a little bit more centered. I mean, you had Black Widow doing something other than just, merely hitting on other men. I mean, aside from the action, obviously you had some genuine emotion there, and I love the stuff with Hawkeye and the little abode out in the country there kind of reminds you what they're fighting for, and it was just overall a much deeper film. Even the climax, you always wonder. I read this in another review, but I had to stop watching it. You always wonder what's happening to all these bystanders during all of this mayhem, and I think this film did its best to kind of address that. By having this, I think it's a much better film than the first. It's one of the better comic book movies I've seen since the Dark Knight trilogy, for sure.
Wow, nice. Okay, and Paul, what about you, sir?
I thought it was very formulaic Joss type of movie, pretty much. But I did enjoy it. It was an exciting movie. I thought the story was well done. I thought the acting could have been a little bit better, but it had an outstanding villain, which just made the movie keep moving for me. So that's my big thought on it.
And Scott, what about you, sir?
Well, like Don, I also saw the movie twice. The first time I saw it, I really couldn't follow it, and the reason, and most of that reason, I'm willing to chalk up to it being the fact that I was in this theater opening day. I had kids in back of me that wouldn't shut up. Their parents wouldn't shut them up either. We met several times. Same thing with the kids in front of us who were actually sitting. The parents were sitting in the handicap chairs and letting the kids just run throughout the theater. So I couldn't follow anything. I couldn't understand what was going on. But then also part of it was just because it was so complicated. I did see it again. It was a much better experience, much more rewarding. And I agree. I think the movie's really good. I really enjoyed it a lot. I will say that it doesn't stack up to the first for a couple of reasons. One, you're kind of missing the freshness issue because the first time you were it was the first time we'd ever seen a team-up of characters that we had seen kind of peppered along these movies over the last few years. It was the first time anybody had really tried anything like that, to that much of an ambitious, extent. And another one is that it is too crowded. I mean, I really enjoyed the film, and I'm looking at the film and saying, it packs a lot of action. It's an emotional roller coaster, and it gives pretty much everybody a satisfying character arc. That's pretty much all you can ask for, and that's a tall order for any film to accomplish. At the same time, I'm like, God, I wish. I mean, even though it took a couple moments to let the characters breathe, which was welcome, it felt so packed, and everybody was jumping from location to location. And it's not just the Avengers, it's virtually every secondary Marvel hero that we've seen on screen has at least a cameo in this movie.
Yep.
And, along with other supporting characters, and then they add new characters on top of it. So, I mean, we see all these, big mashups in the comic books a lot, but of course those are spread out over, several different comics and everything. And this one was all in a big 2.5-hour chunk, and I was just like, I kind of wish that they gave us a little bit more of a cushion so we could take it all in. But then again, when I look at everything the movie did accomplish, I feel like kind of like a dick for criticizing it that much. I'm like, because it did accomplish so much. So I'm like, I really did enjoy it, though. I did enjoy it.
Yeah. And Tony, what about you, sir?
I really thought the movie was awesome. Like what pretty much most of you guys are saying, I do think the first one is better, but I still thought this one accomplished a lot in terms of like the tone being different from the first film. You got to get more development, especially when it came from Hawkeye. I mean, that was definitely one of my minor little issues with the first Avengers, which I love. Just that Hawkeye was underdeveloped in the movie. So the fact that Joss Whedon got to fix that issue from the first film is like, thank goodness Hawkeye got what he deserved from the first film. And it was really cool to explore that. And I like the newcomers, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I thought they added a lot to the movie. as well as
You mentioned Quicksilver. That's funny. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. And then Ultron, I thought, he was surprisingly a sarcastic, funny villain, but that actually worked for me. He was really entertaining. I really liked Ultron as the villain. And I mean, he does have the personality of Tony Stark, considering he actually is created by Tony Stark. So that was awesome to see. And then, of course, the action. It's pointless for me to talk about the action at this point, but I love the action. I think it visually looks really stunning, especially with the Hulkbuster suit. And yeah, I was really satisfied with this movie. I got a big old happy, a big old smile on my face. I really did enjoy. I really liked Age of Ultron.
Cool. Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I was entertained by Age of Ultron. I did find it entertaining. I laughed when he wanted me to laugh, and it was definitely a Joss Whedon film. You could feel that. But at the same time, first off, we've got all these video clips that showed online and all these trailers, and it's amazing that this film was 2.5 hours, and yet there is footage from those trailers that never showed up in the movie. So, which leads me to think Disney, and here's the problem I have. Disney seems to have very tight control because they have everything planned out. And I think if you've read articles recently from Joss Whedon about how he's getting kind of tired of Hollywood, I think that shows up in Age of Ultron. And the reason I say that is because it starts to go dark. They're trying to set a dark tone. They have to. If they're going to do the Infinity War, they're going to do Civil War, they need to get darker. They need to get DC dark, in all honesty. And they haven't been that. That's what everybody's been loving about them. Oh, costume guys. But they need to get dark. And they start to show glimpses of being dark in here. But the minute that happens, it felt like, we're getting too dark. Quick, interject joke. Interject sarcastic line. And that took a little bit away from me because I was hoping them to stay dark. I likened this, I guess the best summary, my feeling of this is, everybody, we just had Free Comic Book Day, right?
Yep.
And you got Comic Book Days. And they had those Secret War issues that came out. Read those. Fantastic. Give you a little sample, some great action sequences, some meat to characters, but not a huge amount. Here, glimpse. This felt like a Free Comic Book Day version of Avengers. It felt like I got all these good bits, but there's parts where there's more that seemed missing for me, that I wanted to see explored more. And I think Joss might have even had them in there, and they might have been cut for the action scenes. It just felt to me like it's a middle film, if that makes any sense. This really felt like a middle film. It felt like the two towers of the DC Marvel universe, because you've got these great things happen, you've got all these characters introduced, they're setting up all things for Phase 3, and that felt like the huge purpose of this movie was actually to set up the next set of films.
Oh, I'd say so.
Mark, for a second there, I thought you were going to compare it to the second Matrix movie.
No, I'm not. I liked it a lot more than that. No, but to me, it felt, I know there were 5 films like before it or whatnot, but this really felt like a middle film, like its sole purpose was to set up the Phase 3, whereas the first one, while it was meant to face, it didn't feel like a setup film as much. You felt like it was telling a complete story, and you knew the events there were going to reverb through the movies afterwards, but it didn't feel like it. And I will say that Joss did a great job of playing off the trope. Let's talk about this. How many people here say I thought they were going to kill Hawkeye?
Yep. Hi.
It was
pretty
Joss.
much think I too.
Give me a break. They were showing.
I didn't because the big, huge emotional spoiler was the huge emotional thing that happens was actually spoiled for me beforehand. Somebody at random in a comment thread on Facebook that was not even related to this movie just went, oh, and boom, just to be a dick.
Rob.
Just to be a dick. And so yeah, when I say I hate troll behavior, I mean I really hate troll behavior because there is no reason to do it other than to be a dick and ruin things for other people.
Wow.
That's what I consider troll behavior.
That sucks. And
everybody else in the theater is like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Yeah, I fucking know."
That sucks. And for me, I know we've seen the casting for, and this is where a whole nother argument of Marvel planning out these movies till the end of time is that it removes some of the mystery of who's going to survive. But I shut my brain off in that going into this film, and the way they set it up, Dawn, tell me Joss was not playing along and trying to lead you to think he was going to kill Hawkeye. Regardless of knowing the casting of films after this one,
he was definitely playing with that, but as Paul had said, he was typical formulaic Joss.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually no real reason for anybody, any of the characters, to die in this movie except to have somebody die.
Right.
Because he can do that. He's Joss God. And the whole bumper sticker, the Jarvis is my co-pilot bumper sticker thing.
Yes.
That whole thing was set up as, in my opinion, as the foreshadowing that somebody had to die.
Right.
Nobody needed to die. After all the crap that they did to get that character in the film to begin with, there was no frickin' reason for it. They should just... And I realized they had...
That's what Joss does.
No, there was a reason. The reason was for Scarlet Witch to then get mad so she could kill a whole bunch of robots all at once.
See, and it's
also
funny.
The actor was afraid that he would get locked in the Marvel machine of you have to get 12 films, and he was afraid of that. And I think they needed to convince him that we'll kill you off your character in the first movie.
I think it's something more simple than that, and it's just Joss. It's this is. I actually disagree when you say that when you guys say that this is a very much a Joss Whedon film. I think that his stamp is definitely evident, but I'd say it was muted somewhat from the first film. I mentioned this on one of these shows before. I know. When Joss is in a place too long and he gets antsy, he just starts saying, "I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to kill somebody. You like these characters? Whoa, I'm going to kill them." And he just starts getting really dark, and he just starts killing people indiscriminately. So I knew one of these guys is going to go.
See, that was my feeling on this. It felt like a Joss Whedon film, but he had Disney executive producers and Marvel map guys for the universe hovering over his shoulder going, no, you can't do that.
Well, that's
We've got to cut that.
I actually cut that, yeah, and I touch upon that in my review that I posted today on movieocrity.com along with a lot of other great stuff. Hey guys, how are you? And is that I said the first film was a culmination. It was a culmination of all these little bits that we'd see from Iron Man, and then they kind of teased the Avengers oh my gosh, and then Incredible Hulk did it, and then they teased Thor and this other one, and they did all that stuff teasing, and Avengers was the culmination. Now we've seen like evidence for the next Avengers led up to this, and we know that this film is not just a movie. It's also the foundation on which the next like 3 or 4 years worth of films is going to be built upon. So they kind of take on that the films don't just have to support themselves; they have to support the next 3 years worth of material.
Right. And that's why I said it kind of felt like a middle film. Cole, did it surprise you who got killed in here, especially considering they kind of had hype around the Quicksilver character?
Well, sure. I mean,
it's called spoiler room, guys.
So I go into a comic book movie to see a comic book movie. I mean, comic books are not. There's a theory that comic books are easily translated to film, and that's been proven wrong. I mean, it's not true. The layout of comic books is not conducive. It doesn't lend itself well to film for the exact reasons that you guys are talking about. It has to grow exponentially, and you've got to develop subplots that can turn into main plots if the fans like them, and all of these different things. So when a comic book film succeeds, it amazes me. I remember the dark ages between Superman 4 and Tim Burton's Batman. It didn't have I remember the dark ages between Batman and Robin and Batman Begins. We didn't have anything like this. So when I review a comic book movie, I remember those days very clearly. And this is a fantastic landmark. Now, in terms of the death, no, it didn't surprise me. Obviously, in a film like this, somebody is going to go. You have to, or both your critics and fans. I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Right.
They come at you and say the film is safe, it didn't go the extra mile, and then if you kill them, people are going to say, well, what the F? It was my favorite character. So, it didn't surprise me. But I thought it was poignant, and I thought the scene, as Glenn mentioned, I thought the scene after it was amazing. That's another thing I dig. The special effects in this film are solid. There are some CG movies you can watch 10, 15 years down the road, not many, but some that hold up. The first Jurassic Park is one of them. Dark City is another one of them. There are a few that last, and I think this one is going to. I mean, the original Avengers already, there's stuff in there to me that seems dated. I'm curious to see how this one will hold up and not just in terms of special effects, in terms of story, and whatnot. But to answer your question, no, I wasn't really surprised. They were unbreakable siblings. As a dramatic storytelling device, they had to probably split them up.
Well, not only that, but the trailer ruined it for me. As they were doing the big epic final fight with the robots, I'm sitting here going, what's going to cause Scarlet Witch to go out and do that whole dramatic slow-mo, drop-to-your-knees scream thing? And I'm watching it as the film goes on, and just as it starts, they're featuring Quicksilver more and more, and I'm like, they're going to kill him, aren't they? I'm like, they're going to kill him, and that's what sets her off. And sure enough, they did. I predicted it like 10 minutes before it happened. The problem that I had with his death was the way they did it and the way they set up these superheroes. He didn't have to die.
Exactly.
He did. I know he did for dramatic. I know they needed, because they needed Scarlet Witch to get badass and rip Ultron's heart out. I know why it happened, but if you actually look at the logistics of it and superhero whatever logic, he didn't have to. He could have easily pushed the car in the way and not be in the way of the bullets.
Right, absolutely. But let's also remember two things. One, the character's not a big thinker in this movie, so he kind of maybe suffers from Charlize Theron and Prometheus syndrome. Like, just go to the left.
Oh my god! Oh wow!
But also, like you guys were mentioning, that they were almost setting up the Hawkeye thing. And the thing was that they did because they gave Hawkeye such a wonderful and emotionally fulfilling backstory. And they saw him kind of he's like, I gotta go back, I gotta save one more. And I'm sure there were a lot of people in the audience like, oh, Joss, you ass, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And he does it, and he doesn't do it. But then Quicksilver swoops in and delivers that line, which was repeated. You didn't see that coming. That character is talking to the audience as much as he's talking to Hawkeye.
Oh yeah.
So I think that was like, I wish I could have been along with that experience. That must have been a lot of fun instead dickhead or internet troll tried to spoil it.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Like I said, again, I don't think this was a horrible movie by any means, but it's these things that showed up. Like a friend of mine said that it was just too dense of a film. It was a very dense film, but
it's so huge, it's so crowded, it's so cramped that even at 2 hours and 21 minutes, which is actually like 2 minutes shorter than the first one, I in my review I said they packed in like 3 times as much.
Yes.
And so that even though they give everybody everything that you would want in a movie, they even give you a couple breathers in the party sequence and the wonderful safe house sequence. You kind of want like more of a cushion. Like,
yes.
So you're like, God, even if it was like, if you could add like another 10, 15 minutes just of breathing room. It doesn't have to be people jumping to more locations or anything. Just happens to be moments of people where they're just going, okay, so let's assess.
Yeah.
It would help you more. But also, like I say, they do deliver so much that I kind of realize that, well, boy, we are kind of spoiled because we have seen a movie.
I would have been perfectly happy with 10 minutes more of James Spader's mad soliloquies.
Mm-hmm.
I had problems with that character, actually.
Really? I love James Spader in that role.
And I'm looking forward to covering that.
We'll talk about Ultron in a minute here real quick. I just wanted to get, Glenn, how did you feel about... with Quicksilver's death, but also just the sheer volume of characters that they did still have in here that they were trying to cover. Was it too dense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was too dense. Because, you've got all the actual Avengers themselves, plus Ultron, plus the 2 new people with the twins, plus you have to have, you have the cameos with Falcon and Dynomutt and Nick Fury and Maria Hill and War Machine and all that. So there's just so much crammed in there, and I had problems with the story as far as the final act went.
Right.
And the fact that you had that much of the city up in the sky, and they can just, we'll just, because it's that easy to evacuate a city.
And yet people complain about how Man of Steel sucked because he leveled a chunk of downtown Metropolis, but don't get me started on that. I got in a bad conversation, a long discussion on Facebook about that one. But, it really was.
And the Quicksilver death, it kind of made me feel it's like Whedon suffered from what I consider James Cameron syndrome.
Yes.
And that is, this is how things work until I don't want it to work that way, so I can kill someone off.
Yes.
And it's like you see how fast Quicksilver is up until that point, and then all of a sudden he's just not fast enough to push Hawkeye out of the way. I mean, like he
couldn't have grabbed both
he
of them?
zips around grabbing people and carrying them, but he can't do that to Hawkeye. He's got to push him instead so that he comes to a complete stop, which he also wouldn't have done. But I mean, I was expecting him to die when he and Scarlet Witch, when they're off separate. I'm like, well, they're not going to kill Scarlet Witch, so they're going to kill Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Because I felt the Hawkeye thing was too
easy.
It was too easy. If he had gone that route, I'd been like, really, that's lazy. Because you set up this thing where it's like, it's like the guy who says, I got 2 days till retirement, and
Yeah.
you know?
Or the couple that says, if we get out of this alive, we're getting married. And the girl is like saying, shut up, shut up, shut up. No, we aren't. Because
Yeah.
those
So,
foreshadowing moments, yes.
I mean, I still enjoyed it, but there were definite issues I had with it, and
Right. And they crop up like that, and when you think about it more. So definitely agree on that. Too dense, and Quicksilver, whether or not he had to actually die or would have died in real Super Life fandom, well, I guess it's still up to debate. But let's talk about Ultron, the big hype with Ultron and Spader's character. And we'll start with Tony because, well, his first name's Tony, and Ultron is based off of Tony Stark. Tony, how did you feel about Spader and the way Ultron was written?
Well, thanks for recognizing that I'm the creator of Ultron.
You dick! I liked that city. No.
Well, I thank you, Scott. It's just me protecting the planet.
You're probably that internet troll that spoiled it for him too.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I pretty much said what I need to say earlier when Avengers Age of Ultron, but like I did say, he was surprisingly a very sarcastic, funny villain. Like, he had that mix of being a little menacing but being funny at the same time. And I know for some people that won't work, and I can understand that, but for me personally, I thought it provided the character a lot of personality to him, and it's what made him very entertaining. And so, Ultron overall, he was a really good villain, and he actually might be my favorite villain in all of Marvel Phase 2.
Wow, nice. And Paul, what about you, sir? How do you feel about Ultron and how he was written, and the hype around Spader?
I do like him. I love James Spader. I thought his voice was just perfect for the role. I didn't like his backstory as much. I didn't like the fact that they tied it into the Chitauri. I really thought that they could still tie it into the Ant-Man. They could have said that it was an old program that the Ant-Man that Pym had originally started a long time ago, and that he had taken over. I thought it would have been a better tie-in to that movie, but I guess they wanted to keep them separated for some reason.
Well, because Marvel's trying to ignore they made Ant-Man, but that's another story.
Apparently. But I thought the idea of playing him almost like a bratty teenager. I really liked that. It was like Ultron was this like, you made me, and I know better. I know how to fix the world. That's what I really liked about him.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? Ultron? Did you like him? And
no, I didn't. Well, I mean, that's not that. You know what? I shouldn't say that. I actually liked him okay, but I had a lot of problems with him. And Paul started to hit the nail on the head. In this movie, Ultron is not a character who is developed and kind of slowly comes into being, develops sentience, and then suddenly comes on this great plan. He basically blinks into existence and immediately starts on his plan. This is both some of the most interesting things about the character and some of the most problematic, in that, unlike the Ultron that maybe you're familiar with from the comic books, this one is this creature is a child.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, the entire events of this whole movie are probably taking place in less than a week.
Right.
So, I mean, we are dealing with a child here. And as such, he behaves very childishly. He flies into a rage whenever anybody invokes the name of his creator. He comes up with this plan. He immediately thinks that he knows the plan to deal with the world. And honestly, if you look at it, the plan's kind of stupid. Like that's like, what episode of oh my gosh, what episode of James Bond Jr. did you pull this out of, Ultron? And it's a kind of a stupid plan and stuff. And he doesn't have some very obvious contingencies which would make sense to me. For example, I was like, okay, he can have his sentience everywhere. Why did he put all of his drones in that city? Why wouldn't you like just stash a couple in other parts of the world just as a contingency?
Well, now we don't know he didn't.
We're pretty sure because Vision flat out says that you are the last one.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
But then don't forget, Ultron was having his little daddy issues with Tony.
He was having daddy issues, exactly like they say. He flies into a rage. He has a temper, and he's very sarcastic and stuff. So you have problems there because he's got a dumb plan. He's kind of has daddy issues. But you also have the interesting bits of him being this supreme thing that fancies himself a supreme intelligence, when in fact he doesn't have any experience to back it up. He doesn't have what I'd call earned education, which would mean like you can read something online, and, like he's reading all this data and immediately understanding it. Well, when you have an earned education, that means you hear a piece of information, you don't quite get it, then you look at it from another angle, you don't quite get it, and then you look at it from another angle, and oh, now I get it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of an earned education. He doesn't have any of that, and and because of that, he is behaving childishly. It's some of the most interesting parts of his character, and some of the most problematic parts of the character. Also, while I liked the look of him whenever he'd go into the drones, it was kind of more like some of the classic comics. I kind of thought that his main form I thought was kind of silly looking.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think in my review, I said he looked kind of like the Tin Man's pretentious nephew who hangs out at the coffee shop and tells the baristas all about the novel that he's working on. He kind of has that look to him, It's like this kind of pretentious hipster Tin Man that's sponsored by Beats by Dre. So.
Jeez. Wow. Glenn, what about you? You've heard Scott talk and Tony think he's awesome, and Paul liked him. Ultron, did you like how he was written? And Spader, I think, do you think he was a good fit?
I think Spader was a good fit. I feel a bit kind of the same way that Scott does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was something kind of. I understand, they were trying, he was in a way trying to like mimic Tony Stark in some of his manners and some of the way he talked. But yeah, he came across kind of hipsterish. It's like I expected like Thor to throw his hammer at him and go, random.
And Scarlet Witch rips his heart out. That's so ironic.
And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping he stashed something somewhere, because that seems, as smart as they tried to make him be, it seems stupid that he would put all of his eggs in, one giant flying island city basket.
Yeah.
And I actually had a problem with some of the CG of him.
Yeah.
The face.
Yeah.
Why do he have lips?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall the character, I mean, it was all right. I think the biggest thing is that if you watch the trailers,
he was more menacing in the trailers.
That is not the Ultron you get in the movie.
No,
you get him for like that first second where he's like, no strings on me, and then he's off to being smarmy and wisecracking. So yeah, it's this.
I was so
more
hoping
sinister and a more menacing Ultron, and I got more of a kind of wise alecky, like.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping for that line from the trailer, because I really liked that line about the hope. I'll take that from him first. I'm like, I was waiting for that line. And did he say it? Did I miss it? Did I go get popcorn and did he actually say that line? Because I don't remember him saying the line in the movie. And that line from the trailer about hope, where he'll take that from them first. I love
Yeah, I
that
don't remember
line.
it in the movie.
Most
But
of the trailers I did not see until today when
Yeah.
I was basically getting screen grabs of it to post along with my review, and
Sure.
that's why I was watched like about 5 different trailers of it today. Because like I mentioned on when we were doing our show, it's like which is also you can get on movieocrity.com, everybody. That's our little pimpage. But I mentioned that like after like the second trailer, I just stopped watching trailers for it because I
Yeah.
knew I wanted to see it. I don't want to see anything else. I mean, I noticed that a lot of lines got recut so that they would combine lines together that were not even in the same scene. So
Yeah.
it might have been split up in different scenes. On that same token, I noticed that like some of the TV spots had some of the smarmy Ultron, but the trailers, for theatrical trailers, definitely did not.
Right. Yep. And Dawn, your feelings on Ultron? I know your significant other had severe issues with the fact that.
Oh, did he ever? Little Mr. Comic Book.
Oh my God! I'm sorry, Tom, but I mean, when we were talking about how Ultron was created by Tony Stark, I could almost feel you wanting to interject something.
Oh my God. Yeah. And
be careful what you say in front of the creator.
I don't. It was very hard. I didn't read as much of the comics as other people did, and God, I wish Brad was here to go off on things. But wishes and shit and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. I gave you the straight line, and nobody said language.
I was too busy picturing a T-shirt that said that.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not as I read some of the comics, but I'm not as familiar with Ultron. So it wasn't that much of a leap. Tony Stark because he is by nature arrogant, egocentric. It makes sense that he would overstep his bounds and do something Frankenstein and very easily step into the role of Frankenstein.
Yes.
It makes absolute sense. And it was very, very Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
The whole relationship, it absolutely was. And taking that personality, those personality bits from Tony rather than Hank Pym or as it turns out, it was actually supposed to be not from Tony Stark, but from the Mind Stone.
Yeah. Yep.
It made a little less sense. Yeah, it made a little less sense that he was this snarky, smarmy Tony Stark Jr.
Mm-hmm. which he was trying to be. Yes, you're absolutely right.
And it made sense that he kind of snapped into existence because he was pre-programmed already as Ultron. The way that Stark had programmed him, so it made sense that he already had these kind of preconceived things that were tainted by the Mind Stone and.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Cole, just I want to get your final opinion with Ultron and James Spader. How'd you feel about Spader's pick, and then how they wrote Ultron?
Well, I mean, it's no secret. Well, maybe it is. I mean, I love James Spader. Mm-hmm. What he does as an actor is not easy to accomplish. I do a lot of acting just because I'm cheap. I can hire myself for free. But what Spader does is tricky. He never takes the easy road. In terms of the character of Ultron, I mean, to me, I own a vast comic book collection, and I could go in and grab a handful of any comics of any specific character, say Batman, 20 issues of Batman, open them up, read through them, and the character of Bruce Wayne is going to vary from comic book to comic book. Now, maybe not drastically, but to be true to a comic, I think, yeah, you should stay in the same universe. You should try. I don't think everybody should make Batman Returns, even though I love that film. On the other hand, I don't know. I think this is a great character. I mean, just to break it down, I mean, compare it to the villains in the first Avengers, or the villains anybody from Phase 1 or whatever phase. I mean, it was good. It's a hell of a lot better than Loki in the first one. I like Loki. The problem I have with him as a villain is that really the success of all these films, to me, in my opinion, owes a lot to the collaboration between Favreau and Downey Jr. and what they did in that first movie, the sense of comic timing, the action, how the humor was interwoven with the action, and how, at least in the non-Avenger sequels, the action is spread out. It's not gangbusters, wall-to-wall action. So I think that the villain in the first was a little weaker because it wasn't tied to Iron Man. It was Thor's kind of thing. And I thought that, to me, as a fan of the films, not stepping away from the comics, it was disappointing. This time, you get Downey right in the middle of that stuff, and the best scenes are with him and Ruffalo. In the first one, but in this one specifically, you get the two smartest guys going over ideas that I've never seen done. I don't know if I've ever seen those ideas as Don mentioned, the Frankenstein's monster thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked all that. All that worked for me as a viewer.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, I guess the Ultron in the trailers is not the Ultron we got in the movie. I was thinking someone who'd be a little less smarmy. But everybody here has made a good argument for or against Ultron or in between. I did like Spader. I think it's funny that he's the same guy who played the bookworm in Stargate. It blows me away, and I always love seeing him, and I think his voice was a right choice.
I think and a lot of the character you can kind of anybody who watches the Blacklist, you can see some of that there. Yeah. And each of his characters is different though, and he can balance the creepy and the funny at the same time and everything like that. I mean, a great movie. It's not even an action film or anything like that, but I think Secretary is a fantastic film that he was in.
Oh yes, Secretary. Yes, the actual 50 Shades of Grey that you should watch.
Yeah, with a much better version.
But they did motion capture him quite a bit, and they did record him doing the dialogue in that, and I guess doing the motions, and he was on set for reading.
He was on that, yeah.
So they had him there to help interact, which I think helps, especially you keep the feel of Ultron there. For me, I like my villains a bit dark, and it really felt that I was hoping for a little bit more darker Ultron than the smarmy Ultron. Though they set it up in the film and it makes sense. It does confound me though that here we have Marvel. This is your property. You have this rich history, and yes, you can do alternate origins, but they didn't necessarily have to either. They still could have did the angle with Tony Stark and still given a nod to Hank Pym for initially coming up with the idea, and then having Stark take the arrogance going, well, Pym couldn't do it, but I can with this, and do the arrogance, and they still could have did that angle and still kept the origin, I think, tied to Pym, and tie it to Ant-Man, because you've got Pym in Ant-Man, which, we finally saw a nice trailer in the theater just before Avengers. It's like, oh, now we're acknowledging we made this film. But it confounded me that they didn't do that when they could have, and it wouldn't have taken anything away from this film. But again, it really felt like Joss was a bit neutered in this movie with where he maybe wanted to go, which makes me interested to see the Blu-ray when it comes out and the extended version, which I'm sure there probably is.
There is. They've already announced that it's going to be an extended cut.
It's like 3 hours or something, isn't it?
I haven't read how long the extended cut is. I'd be happy if it's just like 10 minutes longer. I don't know. But I know they also have an alternate ending on there and everything too.
Yeah, but it just felt a little neutered to me. Again, I didn't hate the film by any means, but it did feel neutered, and so did the character of Ultron a bit. Now, one of the final things I want to talk about, everybody's talked about here, everyone here's mentioned it. I'm going to say right now, I saw the 2D. I didn't see the 3D. Did everybody here see a 3D version of it or the 2D?
2D.
2D.
I saw 3D.
I'm going to put this out right now. The special effects I thought were actually better in Avengers than they were in Age of Ultron. And I may get blasted for it, but I'm going to tell you right now, outside of the slow-mo cool trailer scene they have with all the Avengers or whatever showing up and doing a different pose as they're blind, when they were first going through that woods, that CG
Sucked.
Thank you.
Sucked. Yes.
The person I was with the first time I saw it said the same thing.
The opening battle, which is supposed to grab you and suck you in, for me, I'm looking at this going, wow, this CG looks sloppy.
It did.
And I don't know why. So I'm not off on it. It was, I mean, the rest of the film looked better, but that opening scene from them until they got to the base really felt poorly done.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say they spent most of their money on Veronica that they couldn't spend it on a simple jump scene, like, ooh, I look like Mario.
Well, that's it exactly, is that it's a tracking shot, it's a computer-enhanced tracking shot showing everybody doing their own thing, and I enjoyed the set, and I did like, okay, the special effects are wonky. Because of the nature of the shot, it kind of looked like a video game.
It did.
It did. I mean, Glenn, what about you? Did you feel like that opening was poorly done?
Oh yeah, and when the second they did that slow-mo jump, I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like, this is the shit that happened. Who said it was like a video game? This is the shit that happens in a video game that takes me out of the video game when you get that slow. It's like I'm, playing like a first-person shooter type thing, or when I'm playing now, State of Decay with zombies, and you're wailing on something, all of a sudden it does that. You go for that kill shot, all of a sudden it goes all that super slow, and I'm like, no, stop. I only have so much time to play games. I don't want to spend 9 seconds on just one scene.
What hath the Matrix wrought?
Yeah.
Tony, what about you? That opening CG, did you think it looked okay, or did you notice that it looked less than adequate?
I thought it still looked really good. The rest of the movie did look better. I'll give you all guys that, but I mean, I still really thought the CGI did look really good. And I'll be honest with you, I even look back at other films sometimes to see, okay, maybe it's not the best thing. But when I look back at other films, like The Legend of Hercules...
Did you have to say that movie, Tony? Did you
Laser whips!
Tony. Okay, Tony.
Yeah,
All right, you've got me there. Yes, the CG in the opening of Avengers looked better than Legends of Hercules, but so did the last shit I took. Pardon my French. Anyway.
About the same way, so...
So real.
I did like the opening scene. I mean, it was over the top. I was actually grab his little motorbike or whatever it is and just throw it at those men right there. I'm like, holy shit, he actually did that.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Captain America has powers?
Yeah, it's all like they were on freaking cocaine in that opening scene.
They all drink.
Quick! Let's go to the hydrant. Let's go to the hydrant.
They all drink a case of Red Bull before they got started.
I mean, you do get one of the best lines I've heard in a comic book film, though, and that's "Your men can hold them." They're the Avengers. Like, no, my men can't hold them. They're the freaking Avengers. Yeah.
That line was really well done and timed and everything, because it was just the way they did that. That I really love too. It was just like, can your men hold them? They're the Avengers. No. Cole or Dawn, anything to add about the...
We're the cocainers.
Dawn or Cole, anything to add about those special effects in the opening? Are we off? Were they a little less than stellar than the rest of the film? Or
I just watched the first one again last night, and I've seen this new one twice, and to my eye, it's light years beyond the first one. I've watched them all now since I watched this new one because I got reinvigorated. I was actually getting bored. Neither of the Thors really were good to my liking. The new Captain America was definitely better than the first. Again, I thought it maybe could have used some fine-tuning, but this movie, now I'm excited again. Mainly, the effects, I like all that opening stuff. I thought it was really well done, and it sets up, the style of that scene to me, aside from now that everybody is introduced, and now we can jump right into it, which is what they should have done. The style of it, to me, signals that it's a different film. The way that opening scene is staged, to me, signals immediately this is going to be a deeper, more emotional journey. It's going to be darker, you're going to get deeper characters, and you're going to get a better film. That's what the opening did for me.
Sure. And Dawn, what about you? Anything to add, or?
Not really.
No.
I know I'd read that this film, Age of Ultron, had the most computer graphic special effects, even more so than Guardians of the Galaxy had, and blah blah. Interesting trivia, but I'm a practical effects girl.
Yeah, me too.
CG is CG. It's always impressive, but I have no real opinion.
Oh, okay. Speaking of CG, one of the final things we want to talk about, I'd like to talk about, is the Hulk and the extra characters we get introduced. Let's talk about the Hulk just a little bit, and I just want to get anyone can chime in. I saw some criticism online. Someone said that they kind of neutered the Hulk a bit in this, as far as his character goes.
The lullaby and all that?
I don't think so. I think
compared to the way he was in the first one. How did you feel how they handled the Hulk? Because everybody loved how they handled the Hulk in the first one, but in this one, people seem to have issues. I'm not saying I agree with them. I want to get everybody's feeling of how they handled the Hulk in this, because he still really hasn't had his own decent standalone film.
I actually liked Incredible Hulk a lot as a movie. I thought it was great, but I thought the Hulk was fine. I think that if he was in a situation where he knew he was going to be working with this group, even though, as they say, wasn't planning on a code green, as they call him, he's gonna have to figure out a way, like, okay, just in case something whammies me, I'm going to have a way to be talked down.
Right.
I'm going to, and I think that he would have done. I mean, God, throughout like how many decades of comics, they have tried every single thing they can imagine to. How do we chill the Hulk out? And honestly, they've pretty much got it down to a science, and so that they would have this thing. No, I thought that was very practical. Is that he had contingency plans. He had the lullaby, and if that didn't work, he had Veronica, which we all know better as Hulkbuster. So I mean, no, it made sense to me, and I actually liked the emotional storyline that he had with.
ScarJo?
With Natasha Romanoff. I mean, it's sad that I guess things didn't work out with Betty after all.
Yeah.
No, I liked it. I liked it. I thought that for the two people who were probably working in the most closest proximity to each other, at least according to his ailment.
Yes.
Yeah, it made sense to me.
And if you go back to the first one, that stuff is evident in their first encounter. Again, watching that movie again last night, that first scene in the original Avengers, one of my favorite scenes in the whole film is when she corners Ruffalo, and of course the place is surrounded, and of course he knows it. But there's some good sexual tension in that scene. I thought they paid it off. I think the Hulk has always been somewhat well done, at least the look of the character. I actually enjoyed Ang Lee's film. I enjoyed Edward Norton's film. Oh, well, not Edward Norton's film, but I enjoyed both of those for what they were. It's too bad Ruffalo doesn't have his own flick, because I would much rather watch that than a Thor 3, because they're missing out on a lot of the fun,
Oh.
brutish humor you could get from Thor. You could get a lot of really good, barbaric, hilarious stuff. But they hint at some of that in the diner in the first movie, and then he's Mr. Cool again. But I would rather see a Hulk movie than another Captain America or Thor.
I will say this movie really had me wishing I'd seen a standalone Hulk film with Ruffalo.
Yeah.
It really.
I'm gonna add to this, and I'm gonna add to the chorus of everybody else on the internet by saying I would love to have seen an origin movie of Black Widow. So,
Yes, the Black Widow character.
it's great, and of course all the flashbacks in this movie just make you want it all the more.
Yes,
Yeah,
it did.
Especially
Yeah,
when you find
but-
out it ties in with Hawkeye, you're like, oh man, I wish I could see that story. So, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Off topic.
that's fine. I mean, anyone else have a problem with Hulk, or were they fine with how Hulk was handled?
Eh,
Oh no, I
I-
was
you know-
actually really happy with Hulk because, throughout these movies, Hulk, he has to control his anger, and I know that's not easy to do. And obviously, while he needs to really control his anger, he needs a little something happy in his life. And and I like what Scott said. It's too bad it didn't work out with Betty after all. So, it's kind of nice to actually see that, and you did get a little hint of that in the first Avengers, so I wasn't surprised that they kind of explored deeper into that
Sure.
in the sequel. I like how Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff, there you go, how she is the one that would sing him the lullaby, how he is pretty much her like okay, calm down, breathing out, and how they even said himself she's not even very open, but around him she is. So
She's
it's all
an
like
anchor.
the two see. Yeah, so when the two of them are together, they're like a different person. So I thought how they handled Hulk was very cool.
Mhm.
And of course, when Iron Man had to try to calm him down, that one scene with the Hulkbuster, that was sweet too. But
Go to sleep.
I did
Go to
love
sleep.
the.
Go to sleep. Go to sleep.
Yeah,
That was funny. Don, you were going to say something about the whole Natasha Romanoff
yeah,
banner.
I've really been kind of giving this particular issue a lot of thought.
Give it to me, Don. Tell me, please.
It's, I'm not sure which character they were trying to sexualize and objectify more. Really, they were both relegated to love interest and not much more.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the Zoe and Wash.
Wow, yes. Oh my God, you really nailed it there. Now that you mention that.
I enjoyed it. It made sense, but it took away a lot of strength from both characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say that I felt it took something. It actually took something away for me from the Black Widow character.
And I disagree with this just respectfully, of course.
Of
And
course,
that's fine.
that's
And
fine.
Absolutely fine.
is that because I think that's part of the thing about these movies, and I'm mentioned again is I love superheroes because I love the ideals that they represent. I mean, I get as much from the ideals of superheroes as most people get from the pulpit on Sunday.
Okay.
I'm very serious about that. And
Yeah.
and I think that they have the thing. It's almost kind of like that moment, and it's kind of like similar. You can contrast that with the wonderful safe house sequence with Hawkeye, which I thought was fantastic.
yeah.
Is that yeah, they're having this relationship develop, and both of them are terrified of it because they know who they are. They know Black Widow sees herself as a monster, Hulk sees himself as a monster. They have all this shit going on, and I think it's the idea: what else are we fighting for?
Yeah.
Mhm.
What if it's not for finding strength in one another, finding love in one another, having some sense of harmony and purpose in one another, what else are we fighting for?
Absolutely.
And so I kind of liked that they were able to that two of probably arguably the most darkest Avengers, the ones with the darkest backgrounds, would find strength in each other and be willing to do this. But it's still kind of unrequited. I kind of liked that. I thought it was good, and I thought they both got their good action sequences too.
And I absolutely agree, but that doesn't change the point that they were still both relegated to simply love interest.
Really, you don't think he has a lot of scenes with Iron Man going over the science and stuff?
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought he did, and I thought Black Widow did too with the motorcycle.
Hold on. Go ahead, Glenn. What are you going to say?
To kind of tie into Dawn, I don't think the Hulk was neutered. I think Bruce Banner was neutered. This is a guy who keeps the Hulk at bay, by maintaining that thing, but the character of Bruce Banner has no freaking spine at all. Tony Stark just goes, "Build this. What sounds like a bad idea? Do it. Okay." And then again, build it again. Well, I don't know. Do it. Okay.
And then Stark calls him out on it and asks him, seriously, you roll over on your belly or roll belly up every time somebody says boo?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Banner did seem stronger in the first one. Paul, would you say, you've been a little quiet on this debate, but would you say Banner, I now that you mention it, yeah, Banner seemed weaker in this film than he did in the first one.
Very definitely, he was a much weaker character. Also, too, it just because of that whole, you see him a lot of times kind of like in this kind of fetal hugging position of himself, and he's doubting himself throughout most of the movie, which I don't know. I didn't like that. I thought the love relationship was it was too perfect. It was like I expected it because it was all set up perfectly. And they were the only characters left that didn't seem to have any kind of relationship, and so they had to put them together. And I just thought it wasn't very necessary. And besides, I'm a big Bruce and Betty. I've always liked that relationship. So it was really hard for me to watch, and it was like, when you watch a movie and you're like, no, the relationships are all screwed up. Don't go there. And that's how I felt throughout the whole movie. Even though I knew it was perfectly set up, that they are perfect for each other, it just felt wrong. That's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul, you touched on something that the whole his demeanor, how he's like always in that fetal position. I think that would have only worked if we hadn't seen the first movie where that whole scene where he's like, "Oh, I'm always angry."
Exactly.
That's not the same guy who's going to curl up into the fetal position and be like, nope, not going to get mad. Nope, I'll build a giant death robot for you.
Is it time for Code Green?
I can see if he was like that after the Scarlet Witch incident, but he was like that before the Scarlet Witch. If it was after the Scarlet Witch incident, I could see him kind of crawling back like that, but it was before that he was still showing those characteristics too.
Maybe if we would have had a report of him going nuts and taking out half of like a city, then I would believe him like trying to scale back. But they didn't even mention that he might have been that destructive. They just kind of,
as a matter of fact, they specifically mentioned that after Scarlet Witch had played with his mind, that was the first time that the public had seen what the Hulk is really like.
Exactly. So it was just like,
right. And
I had to think about that for a bit because I was like, well, wait a minute, what about Harlem at the end of Incredible Hulk? And then I kind of thought, I guess he was kind of fighting another monster. Okay, I get it.
He was fighting aliens and another monster. But that's what I love about you guys. Everybody has a different opinion and they see things differently. But I feel like they could have done a relationship between them, but not gone the full all-in love thing with it, in all honesty, because it did, for me, I have to side with Dawn on this, that it took away from me, and the sexualization of the characters is, there as well, but just the making it full-bore love like a relationship, like, hey, we're all in, chips in type of thing, didn't quite do it for me. It makes sense. Don't get me wrong. In the movie, you look at it and you go, okay, I see where they're coming from. But at the same point, for me, they didn't have to do that. They could have accomplished that a different way, and it would have kept this character stronger, I think.
I like the heart that it added to it. One thing about the Hulk thing, did you hear about the alteration they made to that fight scene after the fact? Originally,
It was going to be Gray Hulk.
he was going to be Gray Hulk, and then they decided no, they want to see the Green Hulk, and they would have had that way. They would have had both the Gray and the Green Hulk, and they said at the last minute they said, "Okay, now you know what? Let's just make them green.
Right.
They want to see green, you know." So I thought that would have been an interesting. I mean, I don't know. I think that the overall impact would have been negligible, you know. But it would have been interesting.
And here's where I have to debate with you a little bit, Scott, with the heart thing. You already had the heart thing with Hawkeye and his family.
Right.
You want that heart feeling in the movie. You got that with Hawkeye and his family already. You don't also need it with with Romanoff and Banner.
It gave them something. It gave them, you know how I talk about the ideals of the heroes and stuff. It gave them an ideal to strive towards. I mean, because they're already thinking in the beginning, like, we can't do this. This is impossible. Then they get put, like, well, and you know, Black Widow probably actually kind of secretly knew it's actually not impossible. I kind of know about this, but then they get seen it, and the entire audience gets to see. Actually, it's not impossible.
Right.
This is something that, you know, not to sound like one of those terrible Sarah Jessica Parker movies, but you really can have it all.
Here's the thing, though. The motivation I always picked up, at least from Romanoff doing this, wasn't so much love and wanting to fight for, you know, because I actually have something now. It was for redemption, for the stuff that she had did in the past, and that's where she got her strength from, was because she was trying to make up for her dark past, and Banner making up for his, you know, the fact that he does have this side that can go off and explode at any moment. You know, for me, I always thought that was their main motivation for trying to do the good, and being that. So I guess for the love for me, I just didn't see the need for it. I understand it, and I see everyone's opinion, but for me, it took away a bit from the characters for me, a bit with it, because I didn't think it was quite necessary. And yeah, do we have to have the heart dialogue with Hawkeye and they're gods and they need me? I was like, oh great, do we have Captain Planet here?
I loved that because you know how many times, you know, and I think they actually did some really clever stuff before the release of the movie. I don't know if anybody saw that awesome bit that Jeremy Renner did on the Fallon show.
Oh, with the singing.
The singing was fantastic. But I mean, like is like that's the joke, right? You know, okay, why you got all these people? Why do you need Black Widow or Hawkeye who don't have any superpowers or anything like that? This is why.
Right.
This is exactly why, and I actually liked that. I thought that was important.
I guess that just falls back to me, though, realizing that you don't need to spell it out in the dialogue. We get the point without him having.
Oh, I think you need
actually
to spell it out because it's been an ongoing joke for years.
Well, yeah, I guess, but for me, I guess I just didn't like the bit of dialogue. It felt like it was a line from Captain Planet. I'm Heart. Sorry, but
tacos, mamma mia! Chicos, tacos.
Oh, it's getting late, I know, and it's getting a little long, but I just want to talk about real quick the extra characters that we've added, and you know, where they're going to go with the next. And we know they've got the plan out, but my problem with Ultron is they're trying to set it up for the rest of the phase, including Civil War. But in all honesty, I felt a little bit of the conflict between Iron Man and Captain America. I would have liked to see a little bit more of that than the little scene with the axe chopping. Maybe we're just in too early stages, but just in general with the new characters, do we look at the new Avengers? Are we not going to have? Are they planning not to have Stark and Captain America possibly for Infinity Wars, or are they going to take a back burner to the Vision and Scarlet Witch?
Oh, no way. If they could, and honestly, I would actually like to see them rely less on Tony Stark in future movies, just simply because I don't want it to turn into what Fox has done with X-Men, where it doesn't matter if it makes sense, Wolverine has to be the main character of everything. I don't want them to do that because we love the Tony Stark character. Why wouldn't we? It's a great character. Downey does an incredible job with it, but I do think that there's no way they're going to just go on with that puny little team we see at the end. No offense, I'm that's kind of a shitty Avengers team you got there now.
It was too bad, but between them and the cameos, now, I don't know, was it too many? I mean, we've already talked about it being dense, but did they need to put in all the cameos in this film?
No, it was trying to give it was the super team up movie, and they were trying to give the audience what they thought they wanted. But I'm like, guys, okay, you can scale back a little bit. You don't need to cram in everything.
I mean, and then everybody was kind of complaining, oh, Loki was supposed to be in this. I'm like, I'm glad they didn't put that scene in there, because it was like we're rolling out the entire cast of Marvel Universe, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Peggy Carter. And I'm like,
Thanos.
And oh, God. Okay, since we're near the end of the podcast, folks, that cutscene, the mid-credit cutscene, there's explosion on the internet. Everybody had, as I used the term earlier in an online thread, superhero bukkake over this cutscene, which I thought was probably the lamest cutscene you could have for a film. I'm like, ooh, he has the gauntlet. Didn't see that.
It's it's the exact same cutscene that we saw at the end of Masters of the Universe.
Dude, that scene with Skeletor coming up.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Glenn.
He's fantastic text from superheroes.
Yes.
Talking about Thanos. I forget who was talking to him. They're like, the person's like, so you have these Infinity Gems. No, I don't have any of those yet. Well, why are people scared of you? I have no idea. All I do is sit around and float in this chair all day.
And now he has a glove with no stones in it. I mean, out of cutscenes that we've had end of credits, Marvel has a history of it.
Yeah.
That scene really didn't do anything for me, did it?
At the end of this film?
Of this film, yes.
You know what? Both times I saw it, the theater was so packed, man. I couldn't stay. I mean, it was everything I could do to get out to the parking lot. So it really was. I mean, I couldn't even sit with the people I went with.
Sure.
Right. So I just wait for DVD. I know I am a fanboy, believe it or not. I love comics, but when it comes to after 2.5 hours, I usually have to pee. I missed it, man. I'm sorry.
Paul, what about you? That ends mid-credit scene, really, out of all the mid-credit scenes we've had in the Marvel Universe, I honestly think that's probably the lamest one.
I didn't like it. I really wanted to see either somebody being bit by a radioactive spider or something like that. But I knew they couldn't quite do it yet. But it's still, honestly though, it's still better than Howard the Duck.
Oh, come on.
I like that.
I like Howard the Duck, but I don't like the Howard the Duck that they showed at the end of that movie.
Oh, okay, I got you.
It was a horrible Howard the Duck.
It would have been great if they would have had the practical Howard the Duck back.
Yeah.
The actual
that would have been really cool.
Or have him actually wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. That would be
awesome. Tony, how did you feel about the mid-credit sequence? That actually, I felt I regretted staying till the mid-credit sequence because that was kind of lackluster for me. What about you?
Well, I mean, it's just something a little small. The movie ends. You only have to really go through all the end credits for maybe 50 seconds, and then you see that little end credits scene. I mean, I like seeing Thanos. That could just be me because I just love watching these superhero movies, and I always love seeing little things. Like the littlest things can just put a smile on my face, you know? That could just me being like, oh, yes, I love superheroes. But, yeah, I really enjoyed it, but I could see your point and a lot of you like it taking you out. I don't think it is necessary, but you know, I liked it. It was cool to see Thanos, and you know, it just sets up for what's to come for Infinity Wars in a few years from now.
Now, let me put my get off the lawn moment, and it's something that we talked about. Scott and I did on his show. If I didn't know that the Marvel Universe was planned out till 2100, and I didn't know the Infinity Wars was actually going to happen, I will say the glove scene probably would have had more impact, because then it would have been, oh my God, they're doing the Infinity Wars.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could see it hinted and set up, but if you didn't know they were actually going to make that film in 3 or 4 years, that scene probably would have had more impact for me, because it would have been, oh, we are going there. You know, and for me, but this all falls in line with them having this planned out so long and who's going to be cast in what, that it takes a little bit of that mystery away, or that a little bit of excitement for me, because I'm like, yeah, you know, okay, you know, that I just saw Iron.
It's actually the reason I don't even look up the cast lists of the next Marvel movies, because I don't want to know. I mean, I didn't know any of these people were going to be in this Marvel movie. I still don't know for sure who's going to be in Civil War, because I didn't want to know in advance. Because you know, and you can kind of get that if you don't have TV hooked up, because you can kind of remain ignorant, which is nice.
Exactly.
But you know and you know, people criticize you, but you're a film geek. You want to be kept in the dark. I'm like, yeah, because I want to enjoy the film.
You want a little bit that mystery, and I just think that mid-credits sequence for me would have been more exciting had I not known they were doing Infinity Wars.
Well, they're doing.
I would actually agree with that.
Yes, Cole. They announced.
That's
Two
awesome.
hearts.
Are you kidding?
Yes,
that rocks. When are those coming out?
It does rock, but it's the fact that they announced, Marvel announced that like 5 months ago. They had their game
I know.
plan.
I haven't. Kevin Smith started to talk about it on a podcast, and I just shut it off.
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't.
what I
Mean
do now. I don't know that stuff. But
I
that's
didn't mean to spoil it for you in the spoiler.
No, that's great. I would have found out eventually. Since it was about to come out, I've been avoiding chat rooms, IMBD, you know, all that stuff. And I'm doing the same with Mad Max, so.
Yeah, I've been doing that with Mad Max too, and I'm going to do that with Star Wars too, because that trailer, that was enough for me. I'm in. I'm not going to look at anything else Star Wars or try to avoid it whenever possible, though it is the internet, and if you belong to any movie group, that makes it even more of a challenge. But yeah, they are doing Infinity War. That's what they're leading. That's what they're leading up to.
My whole week.
As two separate movies, no less.
It's going to be two movies. So, but
with the original cast or these new characters?
They're not completely sure, but
I'm hoping for both, because I'm kind of excited to find out what they're going to do with Vision and Scarlet Witch.
I love badass. If they threw this many characters into a 2-hour and 21-minute movie, they're going to throw in everybody that they can completely imagine. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised to see the freaking Defenders in that damn movie.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the plan.
Yes, it is, I think, actually.
Better have Squirrel Girl.
Yes! Squirrel Girl. You've got to have Squirrel Girl. Oh, yeah, definitely. But that's a whole nother discussion altogether. But Age of Ultron, I think we'll wrap it up tonight really quick here, folks. A great discussion, and this is why I love you guys, because everybody had a different perspective on it. Again, folks, I don't hate it by any means, and I think everybody here, it's not that we don't hate it. It was an entertaining film. It was a popcorn film. It was what the trailer kind of showed you mostly. but the problem is you can see the flaws and you can see where it might have been trying to go more. And I guess for me, I felt like Disney had its breathing down Joss's neck saying, no, you can't do that, where it felt like he wanted to do something more, I guess, for me. And they said, oh, yeah, by the way, you got to throw in all these cameos because they're under contract. So, final thoughts on what you would like, what your expectations is. Do you think this is did this get you excited for Phase 3? Cole, I think you answered it already, but why don't you just go again? You enjoyed Age of Ultron. Did this get you excited though for Phase 3?
It did, and I'll be quick. I mean, the majority of this cast were among my favorite actors before they took these roles. Mm-hmm. Mark Ruffalo, Downey Jr., both of whom were in Zodiac. Yes. A lot of these people, James Spader. I mean, a lot of these. Just to see this film and have that kind of talent in this kind of movie is something that I honestly never thought I would see in my lifetime.
Sure.
And knowing that these guys are not going to be doing these movies much longer it makes it really. I mean, I'm not going to say I was crying, but a lot like Dark Knight Rises, which was good to me because it completed I mean, I left the theater a little emotional. I thought, you know what? I've made it as a comic book fan. I'm 36 years old. I just watched Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk and Robert Downey Jr. as fucking Iron Man for the 5th time. That's even Christopher Reeves. Yeah. I mean, I feel very fortunate, and I'm glad I'm alive right now as a film goer, really.
Sure. And Don, what about you? Age of Ultron, did it get you interested in what they're going to do with Phase 3?
Absolutely, absolutely. Aside from the nitpicking, little bits of this and that I wasn't 100% sold on, but it was still a thoroughly enjoying film, and very much excited for Phase 3 and seeing what they're going to do and how they're going to tie it together, and hoping it's not too overwhelming.
Yeah, agreed. Glenn, what about you? Thought on Ultron, and are you looking forward to the Phase 3?
Yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. I mean, just because I don't think this movie was perfect doesn't mean I'm done with all of this.
I wasn't saying you were, but I just was.
Well, the thing is I mean, I love Joss Whedon, I do, but you know what? Not every episode of Buffy was great.
No.
And no one's going to make everything that's going to. You're not going to watch something from everyone. I haven't met a person, met or watched any director yet where I've gone, every single thing he's done has been brilliant.
Right.
I mean, there are some, like Whedon, where I'm like, I at least would say it was good. Mm-hmm. But not everything is great, and it's not going to be. So just because this one wasn't, I didn't freaking, get a sport of Woody that, touched the moon doesn't mean I'm going to give up on all of this. So,
thanks for that.
You are quite welcome. So, I'm still looking forward to what's coming next.
Paul, what about you, sir?
Phase 3 has gotten me interested in Phase 3. It's the announcement of all the movies, because I know the characters that are coming up, and that's what's exciting me about 3. This movie is just a glue for me. This is what kind of basically ties the universe together for me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't push me into Phase 3 at all, but it keeps me, at least grounded, so that I'm not flying off completely thinking, oh, Phase 3 is going to be like, and then suddenly going,
Nice. Scott, what about you?
Oh, yeah, I mean, despite, the criticisms and stuff, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was a little cramped is all, but I thought it was a very good movie. I love, as I've mentioned, I just love superheroes. And you know what? I think, Cole just said it so eloquently and perfectly.
Thank you, brother.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, it's that. I mean, I think it's amazing if you appreciate these characters as much as some of us do, to be able to see them made flesh and so and have the payoff be so good, and you know it's done by the people who have actually developed the characters for years.
Yeah.
Oh man, you kidding me? This is freaking incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm totally into Phase 3, and also as Paul said, I'm really into seeing all the characters that we're going to get in Phase 3, and also in the next phase, where they've already talked about doing, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Marvel, and it's freaking incredible. Yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board for this thing. You know what? I'm going to be doing this, I think, and I'm sure that no one's going to be able to keep this up forever. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
amazing they've been able to keep it up this far. So I know there's going to be bumps in the road, and there's going to be probably a couple ones where I'm underwhelmed. I don't care. I'm in it for the long haul.
Tony?
Overall, I really did have a blast with Age of Ultron. Yes, it may not be a perfect movie. Yes, it may not be as good as the Avengers, but you know what? I don't care, for what Joss Whedon did, for what he was able to accomplish. Because, like what Scott pointed out, it's hard to work with so many actors to bring to life all of these characters, work with them all at once. The movie could have been twice as more bloated, if it was done wrong. But Joss, I think he had the right hands to be able to keep the movie tight.
Yeah.
I had a really great time with the action. I loved where the storyline was going, and even though I wish that all the Phase 3 movies was announced after I would say Ant-Man came out, that would have been nice. I would agree with Mark there. I still thought Age of Ultron is a nice way to set up for Civil War, for Infinity War, and for the upcoming Marvel movies we're going to get. So Age of Ultron, very worthy sequel. I was very entertained, and I was definitely very pleased for this being my anticipated movie for the year and of the summer.
And like I said, I may sound like an ass and nitpicky on it. I did enjoy this film on the whole. Age of Ultron, I was entertained. Joss Whedon has this knack of handling multiple characters well, and he gave everybody something to do. Even with the little bits problems I had with some of the relationships, everybody at least had some kind of purpose in here. Even the cameos. I will say I didn't expect War Machine and Falcon to be in it as much as they did. I thought they would just, oh hi, but they actually were doing part of the plan. I mean, he got everybody involved, which is not easy to do, especially with a film with this many characters. So for what he was given, he accomplished a lot of things in it. No, it isn't a perfect film. There were problems that I had with it, but I still was entertained at the end of the movie, laughed when I was supposed to laugh, and I am looking forward to the Phase 3 films just because of the type of films they're going to do. Black Panther, Captain Marvel, those films. Civil War is going to be interesting. Because Marvel hasn't really I might be wrong, but Marvel really hasn't done dark yet, like dark, and we're heading into that territory, especially with Infinity Wars. If anybody's familiar with Infinity Wars at all,
also the Civil War thing. I mean, I'm just saying, and we kind of got a hint of it in this movie. Tony's kind of becoming a little bit more like he is in the comic books, and honestly, be prepared for a lot of old Iron Man fans to say, "Man, he's a dick."
Which he's supposed to be. So I mean, it is amazing Marvel has been able to do what they did. I'm gonna say the one final thing though. This was the one though where if I felt like this was the first movie out of all of them to where you either had to be up on the comics or you had to have watched all the TV shows as well to catch all of the little winks and nudges they were giving, and it's the first time I felt like that with a Marvel film. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just one of those things where these movies are getting to the kind of the point now though where you at least need to know some about the prior movies in order to catch up with everything, I think, and catch everything that they're putting in the film. But Anyway, that's just my opinion. I hope everybody enjoyed our discussion on this. Let's pimp our stuff really quick. Let's go down the opposite way tonight. Tony, go ahead first. Where can they find your stuff at?
Oh, me?
Yes, you. We're starting with you tonight.
Well, okay then, good sir.
First, tell me. The Iron Man mask.
Yeah. Well, you guys, you know me. If you want to find me, you could go to my channel at youtube.com/22tigerdude. You could follow me on my Facebook page at facebook.com/22tigerdude. Follow me on my Twitter at twitter.com/tigerdude22, and then my Instagram at 22tigerdude.
And how did you feel about James Spader as Ultron?
I thought he was the perfect voice.
No, say what you said in the chat. Come on. How did you feel about James Spader as Ultron?
Well, I forgot what I put in the chat right now.
He was fucking awesome. Come on, say it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I thought he was fucking awesome.
Thank you. There it is. That's what I was looking for.
Thank you very much for that, Mark.
You're welcome. Scott, go ahead, pimp yourself.
Well, I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but I have a site called movieocrity.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's got pretty much everything that I do. I try to update it a few times a week. I don't always do it, but I write reviews. I post all the podcasts that people are nice enough to have me on. I post other stuff too, and it's movieocrity.com. There's also my web series Movieocrity, which I recommend looking up on Vimeo, since YouTube has gotten all like axe happy and trying to like chop them up, and cut them from the channels. So, movieocrity.com is your first stop, and if you want to see all the episodes of the series, go to vimeo.com/movieocrity.
Awesome. Paul, go ahead.
I'd like to be on movieocrity.com, but you can actually find me at forsakenfilmreviews.wordpress.com.
Awesome.
You know, paying that extra bit to WordPress, it's not all that great.
Glenn, how about you, sir?
We're both on WordPress.
All right, you can find me on YouTube at Naked Hobo Productions and the B-Movie Bunker. You can find me on my own site, nakedhobo.com/blog. You can find me on Facebook under Naked Hobo Productions. You can also find me on the other podcasts I do, The Film Jerks, Astro Radio Z, and the gaming podcast I do, Adventure Party.
Yes, Adventure Party. People, check that out. Great podcast for those who are into gaming. Fantastic episodes there. Cool that you get to be on that, Glenn. And then Dawn, how about you?
You can find me at intheaudience.net.
Awesome. And Cole?
Facebook, on my page, Horror Roar, or Shadows and Lovers Productions, where there's going to be some stuff about an upcoming film, and actually a bunch of upcoming films. And you want to talk movies? Just go ahead and friend me, Cole Meredith. That's all I do is talk movies all day, every day. Hunt me down. Let's talk movies.
And that's what we do here in the Spoiler Room, is talk movies. Hope you've enjoyed our Age of Ultron discussion. Find all the old episodes either on iTunes or at specialmarkproductions.com. As always, there's links for all these fantastic people who are kind enough to come on the show and talk movies with us here in the Spoiler Room, where we spoil the movies, but the conversation is definitely fresh.